This video will go over creating a new method from scratch for our eQAPP. To begin, go to Tools, Data, eQAPP Setup. On the CopyQAPP tab of the eQAPP, you can choose from a variety of source templates to find the method you need for your eQAPP. In some cases, the method will not be listed and will have to be added manually. Note that we already updated the Pals tab and are not reviewing for the purposes of this video. For this example, one of the methods for our project is SW9060A for a total organic carbon, or TOC. When we go to the CopyQAPP tab, we can see that TOC is not included in the source templates for any of the QSM options or under additional methods. Therefore, we'll need to choose something else and edit it to create our TOC method manually. There's nothing especially close to TOC available, so we'll choose SW9014 for cyanide because it only has one analyte like our TOC does. For your project, you would choose whichever method is closest to what you need. We'll use the right arrow to add SW9014 to the project. We'll update the information in all other tabs to match our TOC method. On the Methods tab, we'll click directly on the text for SW9014 and change the name to the method that we're adding, in this case SW9060A. We'll also need to change the list name to our new method name, in this case TOC. Next, update the method group, if applicable. In this case, we'll change it to General Chemistry. Click Save Changes, then click OK. On the Matrix tab, we still have the default matrix, units, container, and preservation information for the cyanide method that we originally copied, so we'll need to update as applicable for TOC. For this example, we'll only analyze TOC for water samples, so we'll remove the solid matrix. When deleting, the pop-up will ask for confirmation, then automatically save all changes. Our units do not need to be updated for this example. We'll change the container to VOA 40 ml clear glass vial and update the preservation to HCl to pH less than 2. The minimum volume will be updated to 40 milliliters. Click Save Changes and then click OK. On the Sample Prep tab, we'll need to update the preparation method from the default prep for the original method, cyanide, to something appropriate for the new method, TOC. In this case, we'll use none. We'll use the analysis method filter box to just show SW9060A. Next, we'll click directly on the text of the preparation method and change it to none. Click Save Changes, and then click OK. On the QC Elements tab, the default flags are filled in for our original method, cyanide, so we'll update them to behave as we want for our new method, TOC. For this example, we'll say that if the upper reject criteria is exceeded for our CCV or ICV, we want to apply an X flag, regardless of whether the result was a detect or a non-detect. We'll select the ICV and CCV, then change the Field to Replace option up at the top to Upper Reject Flag, and select X/X, then click Replace. Click Save Changes and then click OK. Note that, although these columns are labeled Upper Reject and Lower Reject, the data will not necessarily be rejected. Rather, the system will apply whatever flags are listed here. If you do not want to possibly reject the data, just change the flags in the upper or lower reject column to not include X flags, which would mark the data for possible rejection, or R flags, which would reject the data. For example, the field duplicate QC element here will apply a J flag if the results exceed the upper reject limit. It will not reject data. Let's go to the PAL Associations tab. Normally, the tabs would be completed in order and not skipped to ensure a smoother process. However, we haven't gotten to the point of updating the analyte itself from cyanide to TOC. If we associated a PAL on this tab, it would fill in the value for cyanide on the next tab. Therefore, we will move on from the PAL association on this tab and update the PAL manually on the next tab instead. On the Analyte Limits tab, select our new TOC method and we will click directly on the analyte code in the far left for cyanide and replace it with TOC. We'll click in the blank space under PAL source to add a PAL manually, since we decided not to associate the PAL on the PAL Associations tab. Choose the Total Organic Carbon PAL. Click Save Changes. Note that the PALs available here are the ones chosen in your PALs tab. We did this step prior to starting this video. Once we click Save, the PAL value will fill in and the PQG will automatically update to 1/3 of the PAL value. Note that the PQG updates based on what we selected for the Update Project Quant Goal rule on the PALs tab, which was done prior to starting this video. We'll enter the limits from our lab. The LOQ will be 2000. The LOD will be 200. The DL will be 96.7. Be sure to save changes again. For a method with many analytes, we could use the field to replace to make updates in bulk, or download the Analyte Limits export to update the limits in Excel. We go over this in our eQAPP Analyte Limits export tutorial video. This video is linked in the description. On the Holding Times tab, we'll check if the holding times need to be updated. It looks like the holding times that automatically populated for our original method, cyanide, are also appropriate for our TOC for this example, so we will leave them as they are. On the Analyte Criteria tab, we'll need to set the criteria at which the flags from the QC Elements tab are applied. This may vary depending on how you plan to validate your data for your project. For this example, we'll change the upper control and upper reject limits for the field duplicate to both read 50. Click Save. If there were other fields that were different between the original method and the new method, we would update them in the same way. For a method with many analytes, we could use the field to replace to make updates in bulk, or download the Analyte Criteria export to update as well. Once your new method is added and QC'd, we highly recommend that you reach out to your Synectics point of contact to submit the method to the core for approval, to add it to the additional methods templates on the Copy eQAPP tab, so you can choose it from the menu next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the FUDSChem YouTube channel for more tutorial videos. All of the tutorials and playlists mentioned during this video are linked in the description below. Lastly, if you have questions or comments, feel free to contact us at fuds.support@synectics.net. Thank you.